You know what's weird? A few years ago, researchers quietly started noticing something that honestly gave me chills. Not because kids were spending more time online, not because everyone suddenly had a tablet in their hands, but because a growing number of experts began describing something much more unsettling. They weren't asking whether children were learning differently. They were asking whether their brains were developing differently. Now, before you roll your eyes, trust me, this isn't another phones are bad lecture. It's way deeper than that. Because buried inside a handful of educational reports, neurological studies, and even corporate design philosophies, there's one specific detail almost nobody talks about. One tiny connection that explains why attention spans seem to be collapsing, why classrooms are becoming almost impossible to manage, why companies suddenly know exactly how to keep children glued to a screen, and why this generation might become the first in modern history whose biggest battle isn't against another country, it's against their own dopamine. And here's the crazy part. Almost nobody is connecting all of these pieces together. But by the end of this video, I'm going to show you the one missing puzzle piece that ties everything together. And once you see it, you won't look at a child holding an iPad the same way ever again. Imagine walking into a restaurant. A family of 4 is sitting together. Nobody is talking. Mom is scrolling. Dad is scrolling. The teenager has headphones on. And the toddler is completely hypnotized by a brightly colored cartoon playing on an iPad. No crying, no laughing, no curiosity. Just staring. 20 years ago, that scene would have looked bizarre. Today, it's so normal we don't even notice it anymore. But maybe that's exactly the problem. Because every generation has been criticized. People once said television would ruin children. Comic books were supposedly destroying young minds. Even radio was blamed for changing society. So, is this just history repeating itself? Or is something fundamentally different happening this time? Generation Alpha is the first generation in human history that doesn't remember discovering the internet. They were born into it. Algorithms already knew what they liked before they even knew how to read. Artificial intelligence is starting to help them finish homework before they understand the questions. Influencers shape their buying decisions before their parents even know the products exist. And companies compete for one thing above everything else: their attention. No, scratch that. Their dependence. Now, here's where things get uncomfortable. Because if you start looking at all these stories separately, the tantrums, the classroom struggles, the endless scrolling, the obsession with skincare, the bizarre internet trends, they all seem like isolated problems. But what if they aren't? What if they're all symptoms of one much bigger system that's quietly shaping childhood in ways we've never seen before? And if that's true, then the real question isn't whether Generation Alpha is doomed. The real question is, who or what is actually raising them? Because once we start pulling on that thread, oh my God, this story gets a whole lot stranger. Hey, real quick, if you're into mysteries, hidden truths, and deep investigations like this one, hit subscribe and join the family. You can also follow me on Instagram to keep up with me outside YouTube. And if you'd like to support the channel financially and help me keep making videos like this, you'll find links in the description for PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and a few other ways to support the channel. I truly appreciate every bit of your support. All right, let's get back to it. Every generation grows up with something the older generation doesn't understand. Baby boomers had television, millennials had the internet, and every time people said the next generation was doomed. So maybe Generation Alpha is just the latest target. Or maybe this time is actually different. These kids didn't grow up with technology, they were born into it. Before they could even read, algorithms were already learning what kept them watching. Endless scrolling, autoplay, instant rewards. None of that happened by accident. The companies behind these platforms aren't trying to raise children. They're competing for attention. And attention has become one of the most valuable resources in the world. Now imagine being 3 years old, with a brain that's still developing, using apps designed to keep you from looking away. No way. That's not a fair fight. So maybe the real issue isn't iPads, or YouTube, or TikTok. Maybe the real issue is what happens when an entire generation grows up inside a world that's constantly fighting for their attention. Because once you start looking at it that way, everything else begins to make sense. Now, let's put opinions aside, because the evidence is surprisingly strong. In 2023, the US Surgeon General warned that social media may pose serious risks to children's mental health, especially while their brains are still developing. That same year, UNESCO reported that simply adding more technology to classrooms doesn't automatically improve learning. In many cases, excessive screen use was linked to lower concentration and weaker academic performance. For years, we believed technology would solve education. Now, many experts are saying it's not that simple. Then came The Anxious Generation by psychologist Jonathan Haidt. After years of research, he argues that replacing real-world childhood with smartphone-based childhood has contributed to rising anxiety, depression, and loneliness among young people. And researchers aren't the only ones noticing. Teachers around the world continue reporting the same patterns: shorter attention spans, weaker reading skills, less patience, and growing dependence on devices for everyday learning. Of course, technology isn't the only cause. The pandemic changed education, parenting changed, schools changed. But when the same concerns keep appearing from different directions, it's probably worth paying attention. And then there's artificial intelligence. Today, students can generate essays, summarize books, and solve homework in seconds. Used wisely, AI is an amazing tool. Used carelessly, it can replace the struggle that teaches people how to think. Maybe that's the real danger. Not that technology is making kids less intelligent, but that it's making deep thinking optional. So, what do I think? Honestly, I don't think Generation Alpha is the problem. I think they're the first generation to grow up inside an attention economy that became smarter than the adults raising them. Every app wants their attention. Every platform wants more screen time. Every algorithm is learning how to keep them engaged just a little bit longer. No way. That's a battle most adults struggle to win. So how can we expect children to? Now, does that mean technology is evil? Not at all. Some of the greatest educational tools ever created exist because of the internet. Kids today can learn almost anything for free. But here's the difference. Technology should be a tool, not a replacement for childhood. Because no algorithm can replace curiosity, no screen can replace real friendships, and no AI can replace the life lessons that come from making mistakes on your own. Maybe the biggest mistake we've made is assuming someone else was teaching our kids, when, little by little, the algorithm quietly took over. And for those of you who were curious and stayed with me until the very end of this video, remember the missing puzzle piece I mentioned at the beginning? Here it is. It was never really about iPads, or TikTok, or YouTube, or even artificial intelligence. Those are only the symptoms. The real story is that Generation Alpha became the first generation in history whose childhood is being shaped in real time by algorithms that constantly learn, adapt, and compete for one thing: their attention. Every swipe teaches the algorithm. Every click improves it. Every extra second makes it even better at predicting what keeps someone watching. And that's the part almost nobody talks about. The technology isn't evolving once a year anymore. It's evolving every single day, while children's brains are developing at the exact same time. So the real question isn't, is Generation Alpha doomed? The real question is, will parents, teachers, and society learn how to guide children faster than algorithms learn how to influence them? Because whichever side wins that race will shape the future of an entire generation. So, what do you think? Is Generation Alpha simply adapting to a new world? Or are we witnessing the biggest change in childhood we've ever seen? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I genuinely read them all. Sending a huge hug, and God bless you so much. Bye-bye.